Most anime fashion sucks. Not every anime, obviously. A lot of characters wear things that would look stupid in real life. But every once in a while, you'll come across a character where the sauce just works. Not because it's expensive, not because the character is popular, the fit is just tough. And what I've noticed is that the characters people consistently consider stylish usually have one thing in common. Their fits actually feel connected to who they are as a character. You can learn a lot about Spike Spiegel before he says a word. You can learn a lot about Nana before she says a word. Even characters like Yusuke, Gojo, or Sanji have styles that feel believable for the type of person they're supposed to be. That's what makes them distinct. So instead of ranking the strongest anime characters or the most popular ones, I wanted to look at some anime characters whose fashion genuinely stands out. Not just because the outfits look cool, but because the clothing actually helps build the character. If there's one anime where fashion feels almost built into the DNA of the series, it's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And while almost every JoJo character could probably make this list, I think Josuke is the best place to start. Because somehow his outfits manage to be ridiculous and believable at the same time. On paper, it shouldn't work. He's wearing a modified Japanese school uniform with a giant peace sign, heart emblems, gold hardware, and one of the most aggressive pompadours in anime history. That sounds crazy. But when you look at Josuke as a character, it makes perfect sense. A huge part of Josuke's identity is confidence. He's friendly, approachable, and generally one of the most normal JoJo protagonists. But he also takes a lot of pride in how he presents himself. Especially his hair. The pompadour. It's a symbol of who he wants to be. It's inspired by the stranger who helped save him as a child, and because of that, it became one of the most important parts of his identity. That's why he loses his mind whenever someone insults it. And that's what separates good character fashion from bad character fashion. The outfit isn't just fly. Every part of it reinforces something about the person wearing it. Even the school uniform itself feels intentional. While other characters are trying to stand out through expensive clothing or luxury fashion, Josuke is wearing the same basic uniform as everyone else. He's just wearing it his way. And that's one of the best descriptions of personal style. The most stylish people usually aren't the people wearing the craziest pieces. They're the people who can take something ordinary and make it feel uniquely theirs. And speaking of characters with a strong sense of personal style, we gotta talk about Sanji. Because somehow, in a world where everybody is dressed insane, Sanji still manages to stand out. To be honest, compared to a lot of anime characters, he's really not doing that much. Most of the time he's just wearing a suit or a suit variation. That's it. No crazy armor, no over-the-top accessories, no wild color combinations, just suits. But that's the sauce. A lot of characters are fly because their outfits are loud. Sanji's fly because he's committed to a look. No matter where the Straw Hats go, no matter how crazy the situation gets, Sanji is probably going to show up in some variation of a suit. And that's reflective of who he is. When you think of Sanji, you think of the suit. Just like when you think of Spike Spiegel, you think of the blue suit. Or when you think of Josuke, you think of the pompadour. Their fits have become part of the character. And what I admire most about Sanji's style is that it actually fits his personality. He's a chef. He's probably the most put together Straw Hat. He cares about presentation. He cares about manners. He cares about first impressions. So it makes sense that he's walking around dressed like that. It never feels forced. It feels like that's genuinely what Sanji would choose to wear. And that's probably why his style has aged so well. Because at the end of the day, a well-fitted suit is just fly. It was fly 20 years ago, it's fly now, and it'll probably still be fly 20 years from now. If Sanji's style is built on consistency, Nana Osuki's style is built on identity. Being truthful, she might be the most fashionable character on this entire list. Because it actually feels like fashion matters to her. A lot of anime characters wear cool outfits because the artist designed them that way. With Nana, it feels different. It feels like if she was a real person, she'd genuinely care about the clothes. She'd spend time putting outfits together, she'd have favorite brands, she'd have pieces she wears over and over again. The fashion feels lived in. And that's the reason her style works. A lot of it is rooted in punk fashion, leather jackets, plaid, chains, boots, layering, even Vivienne Westwood jewelry. But the thing that makes Nana interesting isn't that she wears punk clothing. It's that the clothing feels connected to who she is. Nana is rebellious, independent, a little rough around the edges, and her style reflects all of that. Nothing about her wardrobe feels accidental. Every outfit feels like an extension of her personality. And that's something I think a lot of fashion gets wrong. People talk about style like it's just putting together the right pieces. But the people who are actually stylish usually have some kind of connection to what they're wearing. The clothing says something about them. That's why Nana's outfits still hold up. Because even if you don't know anything about fashion, you can look at her and immediately understand the type of person she is. And that's what great character design does. Before you ever watch an episode, the clothes are already telling part of the story. While Nana's style is built around self-expression, Yusuke Urameshi is interesting for a completely different reason. Because somehow he seems flowered by today's standard more than he did when Yu Yu Hakusho first came out. Go back and look at some of Yusuke's fits. The bomber jackets, the work jackets, the boots, the simple color palettes. Half of it looks like something you see on a Pinterest mood board right now, and none of it feels forced. Yusuke doesn't come across as somebody who spends hours putting together fits. He doesn't feel fashion obsessed. He just dresses like a teenager who's confident in who he is. And I think that's why the style has aged so well. A lot of fashion starts looking dated once the trend disappears, but Yusuke's wardrobe somehow avoided that. Part of it is because the fits are simple, but I also think it's because they're grounded in real clothing. Nothing he's wearing feels impossible. Nothing feels like it only works in anime. You could walk into a vintage store tomorrow and probably put together a Yusuke-inspired outfit without too much trouble. And that's one of the biggest compliments I can give a character's style. A lot of anime fashion is cool to look at. Yusuke's fashion actually makes you want to dress like him. The more I look at his fits, the more they remind me of modern streetwear, because they were pulling from the same ideas. Comfort, confidence, simple pieces worn well. And that's probably why people are still posting Yusuke's fits on Pinterest and TikTok 30 years later. The clothes just work. There were a few characters I couldn't leave off this list. Gojo is probably the easy example. Half of Gojo's style comes from the fact that he's Gojo. If a random person showed up wearing the same fit, I wouldn't care. But the blindfold, the all-black fit, and the aura just make it work. It's proof that sometimes the person is just as important as the clothes. Next we have Ichigo. And what I appreciate about Ichigo is that he actually dresses like a normal teenager. A lot of anime protagonists end up looking like walking action figures. Ichigo just looks like a guy. Baggy pants, graphic tees, simple jackets, nothing revolutionary, but it feels authentic. And that's the appeal. And finally, we have Revi, who might have one of the most instantly recognizable silhouettes in anime. No elaborate design, just a tank top, cargo shorts, combat boots, and enough attitude to make it iconic. It's kind of the funny thing about style. Sometimes it comes from the clothes, sometimes it comes from the person wearing them, and the best characters usually have a little bit of both. And I think that's what separates these characters. The outfits aren't memorable because they're complicated. They're memorable because they feel authentic. Josuke's outfits tell you something about who he is. Sanji's suits tells you something about who he is. Nana's style tells you something about who she is. Yusuke's wardrobe tells you something about who he is. The fits aren't carrying the character is carrying the fit. And that's true in real life too. The most stylish people I've ever met usually aren't the people chasing every trend. They aren't buying every new release, they just know who they are. And the way they dress reflects that. That's why some of the characters still feel stylish decades after they were created. Not because they're wearing the craziest fits, but because the style feels genuine. At the end of the day, fashion is just another way people tell the world who they are. And whether it's a punk rocker like Nana, a delinquent like Yusuke, a gentleman like Sanji, or somehow the most stylish high school student ever created in Josuke, the best anime fashion works for the same reason the best real world fashion works. It feels like the person wearing it couldn't be wearing anything else.